Imagine, if you will, that you're living life as part of the prototypical American dream family. A wife in a nice sweater and sensible shoes, the father, clean cut, in khaki chinos. Actually, while doing this narration, I just pictured the husband being Subway Jared, so that messed the whole thing up. Well, actually, you're the one imagining yourself, so you're a Subway Jared, or you're married to Subway Jared. It's not my problem. Better luck next time, I guess. Anyway, let's start over. Imagine, if you will, you've got a family that looks like it came out of a Land's End catalog. Good-looking spouse, 2.5 kids, nice suburban home with a white picket fence and a big green yard. And in that yard, a happy, healthy Labrador retriever. Playful, energetic, jumps up on you every day when you come home from work. But then one day, you notice something's off. Your once playful friend starts acting strange. His energy is low, he suddenly seems fearful of people for no reason. Clearly, something is wrong, so you take him to the vet, and you're not prepared for what the vet has to say. It's so shocking that you absolutely must post it on Reddit. I think my teenage son may have sodomized our dog. I'm not sure what to do. Help me, Reddit. This is the story of Colby 2012. This video is sponsored by Filmora. Filmora 9 is an easy-to-use video editor made by Wondershare. It's perfect for people who want to just jump right into making their own content. With Filmora, you can easily produce a number of useful effects. For example, superhero effects. My hand is on fire and it really hurts. I am in indescribable agony. Please help me. Cloning effects and text shaking effects. And Filmora provides several tutorials to make these effects as easy to learn as possible. To try Wondershare Filmora 9 for free, just click the link in my description. On April 9th of 2012, a Reddit user made a now infamous post with a throwaway account named ConcernedDad1965. In the post, he describes how his 7-year-old lab, Colby, had a sudden strange shift in personality. He was no longer the playful, energetic dog he once was. He was now timid and fearful of people, even his own family. At first, he thought the dog was sick, so he brought him to the vet. And that's where he had a shocking revelation. You see, as it turns out, the dog's anus had been damaged in such a way that suggested it had been sodomized. In fact, the vet could not conceive of any other possible way these injuries were sustained. So Concerned Dad starts mentally going through the list of people who might have had access to the dog. The neighbors, the gardeners, his own family? He only lived with his wife and his teenage son. Surely neither of them had anything to do with it, right? He had a sinking feeling that his son was involved, so he had to alleviate that by searching his room. I didn't really know what I was expecting to find, and I didn't really find anything in there that screamed guilty, until I decided to check his browser history. I found he had been on a bestiality forum recently, and a site with pictures of that sort of thing. I felt like I was going to throw up. Now I know that this isn't definitive proof of anything, but it sure doesn't look good. The more I think about it, the more I am convinced my son had been sodomizing our dog. I haven't told my wife yet or done anything about it. I have not left him alone with the dog since. I am totally confused and upset and don't really know how to proceed with this. Reddit, please help. Reddit quickly came with advice. I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to put him down. And then find a good therapist for the dog. Talk with your son. Tell him that he raped a member of your family by raping the dog. Use analogies, no pun intended. No pun achieved? I guess anal aggies? To tell him how it is like him raping his mother. People pointed out that he had no smoking gun here, but the bestiality forms were really strong circumstantial evidence. So Concerned Dad decided to confront his son about it. Privately, without his mother knowing about it. And that decision right there, not telling the wife about it, was the domino that would lead to a long chain of consequences. He waited until his wife went to bed, and then Concerned Dad went to his son's room. He brought up what the vet had told him, and the son acted nervous, but pretended he didn't know anything about it. And when the son brought up the websites and the bestiality forums, the son became indignant, outraged that his father would violate his privacy in such a way. And after some back and forth, the son finally admits that the week prior, he had shoved his fingers up the dog's butt and inserted the hairbrush into it. Concerned dad was relieved to hear that his son hadn't actually had sex with the dog, but still, something had to be done. So they came to an agreement. The son would go to therapy and they would come up with an alternate explanation and keep it a secret from his mother. Concerned dad was starting to think that maybe it would be a good idea to go back on his promise to his son and tell his wife what was going on, but ultimately he didn't. And then 2 months later, Concerned dad makes another post. I am the father and redditor whose son sodomized our dog with a hairbrush 2 months ago. He's done it again and I don't know what to do. Please help. This time, he caught the son in the backyard with the dog, grabbing its genitals while playing. Obviously not as bad as sodomizing the dog, but still not good. At this point, the son had been going to therapy, but I guess it wasn't doing good enough. So he immediately grounds his son and then goes on Reddit to ask what he should do while he waits for his wife to come home. Maybe the dog is partially to blame. What was it wearing at the time? In general, the consensus was that he has to find a new home for Colby. This isn't a situation where all of a sudden this is all just gonna turn off like a light switch after a little bit of therapy, and in the meantime the dog is not safe in their home. Concerned dad updates the thread after his wife gets home. He finally told her everything after keeping her in the dark for 2 months, and she's a little bit upset to hear that her son had been molesting the dog. But she also felt betrayed that he would hide such a thing from her, especially for so long. So she grabs her purse and walks out. His son was also mad at him that he told her what had happened, but really, you've been molesting a dog, you don't really have a leg to stand on here. So, with his house burning down around him, Concerned dad does what any man would do. Continue to post on Reddit. Update 2. Wow, front page. Time passed, some posts were made, and eventually Concerned dad's wife called him. Update 3. Okay, well, my wife called me to say she is staying at her sister's house tonight to clear her head. She has finally calmed down a bit, but said she doesn't think she can handle all of this tonight. I said I understood and apologized again profusely for not telling her sooner. I tried to explain what another Redditor mentioned about how the first incident was a weird male adolescent sexual thing, and he was embarrassed and thought he could confide in me and trust me. She was pretty unmoved by that argument and thinks I should have told her. I guess I was wrong. When we got off the phone, I said I love you and she just hung up. This is probably up there as my worst day in recent memory, at least since the day I found out my son sodomized my dog for the first time. As for my son, I have seen no sign of him since he made his Hot Pocket. However, for about 40 minutes now, I've been hearing what I am guessing is dubstep coming from his room. I don't know. I'm too old to even want to know. Colby will sleep in my room tonight, and tomorrow, hopefully, the wife will be calm enough to discuss what to do with him. She loves that dog a lot. I'm not sure how she is going to want to move forward with all of this. For my part, I can already think of 2 families we know that would probably be happy to take the Colpster. Jesus, what a day. Thanks, Reddit. Another 2 months would pass without Reddit hearing from Concerned dad, but goddamn, those were an action-packed 2 months. The third Colby post would come in August. Update, I am the father and redditor whose teenage son sodomized our family dog Colby. It's been 2 months since the latest incident and my family is falling apart. More inside. Remember what I said about the initial decision to not tell his wife and how that was the domino that would send things tumbling down? Well, now the wife thinks the son is innocent and in fact it had been the father who was the one sodomizing the dog all along. Clearly this is a marriage that cannot be salvaged, so they have a trial separation with the dad staying at his friend's house, and with Colby staying with his wife and son. Obviously, Concerned dad did everything he could to get the dog to go with them, to which his wife responded, "Why, so you can sodomize him again and blame it on your son, you sick fuck?" So he goes to his friend's house without the dog and contemplates how his son could do this to him. This whole thing has just become a complete nightmare. I've tried to confront my son about denying what he did to his mom, and he won't even talk to me, and has just started taking the stance that I'm crazy. I guess he thought he saw a way out of all this and decided to just throw his dad under the bus. That is probably the most hurtful part of this entire ordeal, to be honest. I'm used to having my wife be a complete bitch to me at this point, but the betrayal by my son, who I was only trying to help, is like a knife in my heart. That being said, I have to remind myself he's just a kid in an awkward situation, and try not to hold it against him. After all, if my wife and I wind up with a divorce down the road, he is going to be the only thing I love, so I am trying not to do irreparable damage to our relationship. I feel like I've done enough damage to this family, and all of this over a goddamn labrador. He asked for advice from anybody on Reddit who had been in a similar situation, but I mean, come on. Most of the advice people gave was to simply lawyer up and get ready. And there was a good bit of advice to try and have follow-ups with the original vet, because now, with the father out of the picture, if the same thing were to happen to the dog, we know who's doing it. Unless, of course, Concerned Dad secretly broke into the house just so he could rape the dog. The last of these threads created by Concerned Dad was made on September 14th. I am the father/redditor who lost his family after it came to light that my son was sexually abusing our dog, Colby. I have some good news for everyone. Colby is safe, but there is still the question of what to do with my son. In the time that had elapsed, he tried to convince his son to come clean about everything that he had done. But after that first phone conversation that they had, the son simply stopped answering his calls. So after he had finally had enough, he goes back to the family house, bangs on the door, and winds up in a big screaming match with his wife. This screaming match culminates in a scene where the neighbors are watching them fight as the wife yells, "Dog fucker, dog fucker, dog fucker" at him. So he leaves. As I walked back to my car, fuming, I looked back at the house and saw my son staring at me from the second-story window with a blank look on his face. I stared at him and shook my head in disappointment, but he didn't change his expression. I have to admit, that really broke my heart and pissed me off. A few days later, Concerned Dad is at work. The phone rings. It's his wife. She's crying and very upset. You see, their son was at the hospital. He had to get stitches. Why did he need stitches? You see, Colby had bitten him in the lower abdomen. Twice. Wonder why that might happen. She didn't say it outright, but he could tell from her voice that she finally believed him. And he also knew that he had to do something. When we got off the phone, I felt this rage building inside of me. I felt like it was finally time for this shit to end. Colby had stood up for himself against my son, who had betrayed both of us. I couldn't prove it, but I just know my son was abusing the dog again, and I felt responsible for having left him alone with Colby all these times. It was like Colby finally lashed out in desperation after having nobody there to protect him. I felt sick to my stomach for having abandoned my dog with my kid, who obviously doesn't give a fuck about me or any of us, as long as he can keep getting away with his shit. So he immediately leaves work, drives to the family house, goes inside and confronts his son. He tells them that if he ever hears about his son doing anything like this to an animal ever again, he's going to call the police. He then takes a leash, gets Colby, and begins to walk to the door. His wife, with tears in her eyes, tries to stop him from leaving. She apologizes for not believing him and invites him to stay at the home. But he declines her offer and drives back to his friend's place with Colby. And for several years, that was the last we heard about this story. Concerned Dad tried to do an AMA on Reddit a few years ago, but for whatever reason, the mods deleted it. The last update to this story actually appeared in a different thread in July of 2018. What was one of the most mysterious posts found on Reddit? Things are better. Colby sadly passed away about a year ago, but he was getting up there for a dog his size, and it was a natural causes. I'm not sure I want to talk much about my son, but I'll say he and I are much better than we were in 2012 when the incident took place. It's not something we talk about with one another. I hope and pray he no longer fantasizes or concerns himself with that type of behavior. If he does, I wouldn't know about it since he lives on his own now. As for my ex-wife, well, she wound up in therapy after losing her job. Honestly, we don't communicate much, but I do not hear good things about what she's up to now. There are rumors of drugs and certain favors, etc. I don't really want to get into it for my son's sake. As for me, I've been with a new woman for a few years now, and things are much better. She has a son as well, and we get along just fine. I have to say, life is funny. Who would have ever thought my son putting something in our dog's behind would lead us all down such strange paths? Sometimes, I wonder what life would be like if I had never caught him doing it, but who knows? Life is crazy, folks. Love your dogs. F in the chat for Colby. And now, all that being said, there's been a lot of skepticism throughout the years that this story is even real. One Reddit commenter put it perfectly. It has everything that Reddit craves. A dad trying to protect his son, the wife who acts irrationally, the wife leaves the husband, the dog getting fucked cause cats FTW, right? For Reddit, my kid fucked the dog and my wife left me. Am I in the wrong here? Comment Karma Gold right here. And they're 100% right, this story reads like pure Reddit beat, designed to tick all of the correct outrage buttons. Perhaps this all just was someone's fictional dog fucking story that they wrote as a creative exercise. Or maybe Colby really was a dog who survived a harrowing experience. You never know with these kinds of stories. I'll put a poll up. What do you guys think? Is the story fact or fiction? But anyway, that's all for now. If you guys like this video, you'll probably also like my video about the worst Reddit AMA ever. I'm out.